Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists podcast, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. As always, I'm Will. That's Blake. Today we're talking a little Wizard, Witch, and Wild One.
I love the different inflections you like to just try out and just like, oh, I'm gonna try this today.
You gotta spice it up every once in a while.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, how are you today?
Good, man. It's Friday, so that's nice. And
True.
it's still, I was about to say it's about to be like Friday evening, maybe time to kind of wind down a little bit, but I guess we're not quite there yet. But I'm
not quite there.
But I'm good. I'm happy it's Friday. I think that you and I and some of our other close friends might be getting to hang out tomorrow, which is like a rare occurrence this day and age. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, I can't complain. How about yourself?
Yeah, good. I'm not sure if we're gonna make the hangout.
Oh, what?
Now that you just said that.
Oh no.
It's tough when you have. I love my kids, but it's just tough when you have kids because you just can't, up and go. And a lot of people are out of town for 4th of July, so limited on options. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I get it. So this isn't me like pressuring, but all I'm gonna say is that if there is like a window, like even if we had to like do it earlier in the day or something, like I'd be down. So if you do have a random window, throw that in the group chat, and I'll be like, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But yeah, I lost my train of thought. We're Wizard, Witch, and the Wild One is what we're here to talk about today. Worlds Beyond Number. Announcements, just the typical ones, I think. Critical Role. Ravening War is over, but go ahead.
And speaking of Diablo, The Witcher season 3 just dropped on Netflix. So
listen, I'm gonna watch season 3, but I won't even pretend like we're gonna cover it. We still got to do season 2.
I don't know if I'm gonna watch season 3 because I canceled my Netflix like a couple of months ago, and so I don't really think I'd re-up it just for Witcher.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, this isn't the Witcher podcast right now. Maybe we will have a Witcher season 2 and Witcher as a whole retrospective at some point. So maybe I'll save it for there.
It comes up in someone's like latest from the Pixelists, and it's like Witcher season 2, and they're like, "What?
What's going on?
What's the date on this?"
But
anyway.
But I will watch season 3. I'm not going to be watching past season 3, but it just makes me sad. Anyway, bro, random quick side note. Have you seen the dog that's like obsessed with Henry Cavill?
No.
There's like this dog on social media that it's I mean, I guess it's not a long story, but like their owner found out that the dog like loves Henry Cavill. Like if you put a photo of Henry Cavill like in a lineup, the dog will pick it out.
Yeah.
So it like became this big sensation, and they flew the dog out for the Witcher premiere. So everyone's been like waiting with bated breath for like the video of the dog getting to meet Henry Cavill, which I don't think it's
him to shreds.
Come out yet. But
the owner was like, I don't see my plane ticket, and they're like, it's just the dog, actually.
Thanks.
So the dog's like, can I take that phone call? So
yeah.
Anyway,
my ship's come in, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, just typical announcements from us. Nothing really crazy coming out the pipeline. Just our normal stuff. But definitely check it out.
I got a question. Are you watching Secret War?
I've seen the first episode.
Okay.
Have you?
No, not yet.
And this is another conversation we need to have just about like Marvel in general. But like we've talked about it at times on the pod before. But just the recent outings have kind of been lackluster. I haven't seen Guardians 3 still, which I have high hopes for that one.
Guardians 3 is good.
So that one aside, the recent outings have not been that great. So, but I did watch episode 1. I'm gonna keep watching it, but I'm gonna reserve judgment until I've seen a bit more of it. But episode 1 was pretty good enough.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's
Yeah,
dig
sorry.
in then
Yeah.
to some W cubed. Yeah. And yeah. All of a sudden I was like, I put so much stock into that joke that I didn't know what happened after. I was like, what do I do now?
Where am I?
So yeah, so we're going to talk a little Wizard Witch in the Wild One. And if you are just tuning in, we like to do a little recap of the episode. So if you're checking out just the recap, we often will peel this out as its own video. In the comments, we'll have a link to our full episode discussion, and not just our discussion. We want to know what you thought of the episode and what the heck you think is going to happen next. So having said that, do you want to take us away, my friend, with our recap?
Oh, I was muted. Yes, sir. I will kick us off. This is episode 9, The King of Cups. So we pick up where we left off, as you do, I suppose, with our heroes on the uppermost platform of the Calibel Notomantic apparatus. Which
Nice
again,
job.
thanks, man. Which again is the wizard Derek's out in the sea, and they're staring down at the bottom of the ocean at this enormous being that's being pushed down by this light that is, being generated by the Derricks. And Moro is kind of horrified at Suvi having just asked him, "What have you done?" Um, so we pick up in this moment with everyone trying to process kind of what they're seeing. And Ursulon wants to know if this is a spirit. And, Brennan says, no role necessary. You know that this is. Um, this creature has had its glamour stripped from it. Ursulon doesn't recognize it like as a spirit that he is familiar with, but he thinks it's probably Naram. Then Suvi is kind of asks this question to Brennan of, she knows the Citadel doesn't know that much about the Honored Friends, but if she thinks back on it and the history with them, does she think that this is something that like would be par for the course, or is this like an abomination what Moro is doing?
Right.
And Brennan says, this isn't day-to-day Citadel, but the logical part of your brain basically has to say like what in principle here is different from other things that you've accepted. So basically this kind of recontextualizes her "what have you done" tomorrow to be a bit more impressed, like, "Oh, what have you done?"
Yeah.
And Ame's reaction to this is just like horrified, and she can tell that the creature is anchored by more than just this light that's pushing it down. They have somehow anchored this thing here, and the liquid turning into the coral is indeed its blood. Moro says, this is incredible, isn't it? And he calls off the chanting, and it subsides and the viewing window closes essentially. He says the creature's been sighted here for generations, and it has this innate ability to control currents. So they've been harvesting the coral and doing things with it, like the wands and the rings. He says the research and findings have been extremely promising, and that he'll tell Suvi more later, but he thinks incredible things are possible because of this. Suvi wants to know more, but Ursulon is just like staring off into space, like just kind of lost.
Right.
And he says, we need to go. I need to go. So the crew gets back on the boat, sails back to port, returns to the wizard's chantry, I believe it's called. And Moro's like, yeah, capturing this thing was just the first part of this plan, and how we did it was we scuttled some bait beneath, hoping it would come in, and it did. And he's like, the rings and the coral and stuff, that's just a side project. He said the real possibility here is we could maybe control like the oceans, control tides, control weathers to an extent, and that could help us turn the tide, no pun intended, of this war. Because our enemies at Ruve and Gauthmai, they're prepared for like an attack, but they are not prepared for a tidal wave coming at them. Suvi asks, has capturing this thing brought any negative results? Like, has there been any repercussions for, capturing a great spirit? And Moro hadn't even thought about this. Just goes to show like where his head's at. And Suvi mentions like, yeah, there's not many like fishing boats in the dock when it should be full. And then Moro's like, yeah, and we do have this kudzu infestation, and maybe it's related, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
Um,
Probably
and
not.
and during all of this, Suvi realizes that she stopped pretending to be excited and is actually excited about
Yeah.
like the potential of these things, and only kind of catches herself feeling this way when she looks at her friends who are still just like horrified.
Mhm.
Um, so they get back and they kind of are to themselves again. And the first thing Ame says is, "We have to find Orima." And Ursula's like, "No, we just have to go. We have to get Wavebreaker and just get out of here. There's nothing we can do. We can't stand against the Empire. Like, we just have to go." And Ame puts her foot down. She's like, "No, I'm not going. We have to help Naram. And, to do that, let's go talk to Orima." She says, "We can't let the Empire hunt down um, these spirits." And Suvi says, "They already are." And there's this great discussion in this part of the episode, um, that's just fantastic, with everyone kind of
Mhm.
arguing their side of things. And Ame basically is like, "Well, you guys do what you want to, but like, I'm going to Orima's shrine." And Suvi says, like, "Well, you can't. The witch fires and the kudzu and stuff is in your way. And if you do something, how do we know that Orima won't like unleash fury unto all of us? Like, we don't know what she's gonna do." And Ame's like, "Well, I have to try to talk to her." And Suvi is like, "Well, Ursula, what do you think? Like, do you know about Orima?" And he was just like, "All I know is my dad said she was to be avoided." And this basically ends with all three of them going their separate ways, and going to their rooms. But Ame then quickly goes to see Ursulon. And he's in his room and he has removed the sailor's ring that he was wearing and tries to break it, but he actually breaks his sword instead. Um, and there's another good moment here between Ursulon and Ame where he's telling her, like, "I haven't told you about all the hardships I've been through since we were kids. But these past few weeks together have been like the best time of my life. Like, I've had joy again. And I don't want that to end." So like that's why he thinks they just need to leave, because what can they do against the Empire?
Mhm.
And Ame's like, "No, like I think there is something we can do. We can go talk to, Orima." Um, and Ursulon's not really budging. And then to end this out, we get this great conversation with Ame and the fox, where she's like, "Well, what would you do, Fox?" And he's like, "Well, I just do what I want to do." And she's like, "Well, what if they catch you? What if they would always catch you? Would you still do what you want?" And he says, "I'd still do what I want, because if I stop trying to do what I want to do, then they've already caught me." And I was like, "Ooh, such a good line." Um, but then the fox is like, "I'm going to go get some fish slurry." And he leaves. And so Ame is left alone. We cut to Suvi, who has been looking for someone to send a message to the Citadel. She runs into Galani, who was an upperclassman to Suvi at the Citadel. And Galani is like, "I can't believe you're alive. Like, people have been freaking out about you. Word went out about a week and a half ago to begin looking for you, and nobody knew where you were." And Suvi's like, "Oh, about that. My
Yeah.
sending my sending mirror broke. Whoops." And she tells her how it was disenchanted during that run-in with the
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 spirit.
king in
Mhm.
the night, or whatever his name was.
Mhm.
Yeah. But she rolls a really bad deception check. And Glani's like, "Well, hey, Steel's on her way. She'll be relieved to find out you're okay. And we only found out you were here because Moro was literally telling everyone he could that you were here." Um, and then Suvi is kind of like stumbling on her story. And so Galani's like, thinks she might be possessed or even mind
Mhm.
controlled. So she casts a spell magic on her, but nothing happens. So Suvi's like, "Yeah, we had to flee from the other side of a comb, and only once getting here did I think it was safe enough to make my presence known. And I picked up some companions to help keep me safe along the way." Um, Suvi then accompanies Galani back to the governor's mansion where she's staying. And Galani's like, "Do you want to stay here? It's much nicer." And she ultimately decides to stay there, and that she'll just go and get Ame and Ursulon the next morning. But she does kick a note under Ursulon's door to let him know as much.
Mhm.
We cut back to Ame now, who has gone to the library to research. And there she finds these folklore books, and in one finds a drawing about this king of storms who gave three gifts to his son Naram on his name day: a spear named Sea Calmer, a cloak named Mist Caller, and finally a sword named Wavebreaker. And there's a drawing of the sword with the seven fingers, because Naram has seven fingers. And this
Mhm.
revelation is like, "Oh my gosh, Ame like wants to go tell her friends, and that's where we cut to break.
Yeah. So coming back from break, which we actually had an actual break. It bears mentioning that Worlds Beyond Number had has a abbreviated kind of mini campaign going on that Erika Ishii is doing. But coming back from the break, the advertisement for that, Ame is going to rush to Ursulon's door. But unfortunately, whenever Suvi left, she put a note under Ursulon's door that was like, hey, I'll be back in the morning. Like, don't wait up kind of thing. Well, Ursulon took that note and decided to leave, decided to go kind of check out the town. So Ame comes back to find no Ursulon, no sign of where he is. And she immediately, in having to tell this revelation, begins doing, I think it was minor illusion, in carrying like this sound of like kind of like a dinner time bell to try to get the fox to show up. We cut over to Ursulon, who is immediately heading actually to the Ace of Wands. And he intends to essentially confront Will Gallows and have the deal done. He makes his way in. He makes his way up to the waiting room, speaks to the cudgel, and is like, I'm here for Will Gallows. Like, he should be expecting me. And there's a bit of an admiration here from the cudgel, who's kind of like, okay, yeah. Do you want to relieve your, enjoy the amenities in the space while we wait for him? And Ursulon's like, yep. And there's still like the handlebar mustache bartender guy, throws back a couple of drinks and kind of enjoys himself before he's finally led to this private game room where Will Gallows awaits with Wavebreaker in its scabbard on the table, ready to be given to Ursulon. But before he hands it to him, he first asks, what's the nature of this sword? Like, I haven't been able to find any value in it. Like, what do you want it for so badly? And Ursulon basically explains it's valuable to a friend. It's sort of a memento, and that's why we want it. And also on top of this, Will Gallows really admires Ursulon, and not just admires Ursulon, but obviously him, Suvi, and Ame, and says essentially, it's not usual that I give someone work that they then take care of the same day that I gave it to them. He's a bit surprised as to how fast he worked, and he even goes as far as to offer Ursulon a job and says, the last time you were in town, you were at the bottom of the barrel. I can make sure you are deeply taken care of. Ursulon, however, is not having it. He's like, I'm done with this place. I hate this place. This place sucks. I'm out of here. And Brennan describes Will Gallows as sort of finding this obscene pleasure in how disgusted Ursulon is with his town. But despite this, Will Gallows says, well, if you ever change your mind, here's a little thing that you can sort of use to call for me. And he hands him some thread, some twine, almost like from frayed from a rope. And he reveals that I only have a certain amount of this, so don't lose it, because it's all I have is what they left on my neck, basically when they hanged me. And the table lost it at this moment. I think Brennan even said, this makes me feel good. They just loved this line. Ursulon kicks back another drink, shares one with Will Gallows, and is off back into the night of the town, intending to head back to the Chantry. We cut over to Suvi, who has arrived at the governor's mansion. Similar to the Chantry, it's a rich mansion, and she is brought to this large person-sized mirror where there's sort of like an incantation is cast, and she sees on the other side of the mirror Steel surrounded by soldiers. And Steel essentially lets her have it, tells her to be left alone, or said she wants to speak to her privately. So she asks, what's her name?
Galani.
Thank you. I was thinking Galadriel. I was like, that's not right. There's this funny moment where she's like, Galani, please leave us. And Abria's like, Suvi's like, you can stay. It's okay. And Galani's like, well, see you later. And basically, Steel just rips into Suvi and is like, where have you been? What's been going on? Eventually tells the soldiers to leave them privately. And we get kind of what we sort of expected earlier in that Steele is like, hey, when I told you could go take as much time as you need, I kind of envisioned maybe a day. It's been weeks. Like, where have you been? And very much like worried mother. Like, I've been worried sick. And Suvi is really stumbling over herself, very much shrinking in this conversation. And Steele informs her, like, I'm coming to see you. To which Suvi's like, no, you don't need to come. Like, it's, I'm good, Mom. And Steele's like, it's done. I'm coming. I will be there. But before they end the call, Steele kind of just wants to get more clarity on like what's been going on, like what happened. And Suvi explains essentially what we've seen happen, leaving out some key details. She doesn't inform Steele about Ursulon as a spirit. So she keeps that one close to her chest, but she does reveal that when Grandmother Rin passed, notably, Ame wasn't seemingly understanding what Grandmother Rin was telling her, and that she seemed to be cursed, and they're looking to acquire this item to break the curse. But secondly, that her speaking mirror was disenchanted by this spirit who came to the door, to which Steele asks, well, tell me more about the spirit. And Suvi says, like, well, it had a lot of names, and she basically gives one of the names, maybe like Pilgrim of the Night, I can't remember, but Steele adds the next name and says like King of the Night, and then kind of trails off, implying that perhaps Steele's familiar with the spirit potentially. Separately, she's like, hey, just keep everything like locked down till I get there. I'll be there in 2 days. And the Suvi's like, hey, you probably want to know what Moro's doing. He seems to have captured like a great spirit and is doing like these kind of experiments. And Steele seems a bit disturbed by this. In fact, she basically says like, hey, we just need to have everything locked down, like keep everything tight until I get there. I don't want anything else to happen until I'm there. So they agree. And Steele's like, all right, well, I'll see you in a couple of days. And Suvi's like, all right, great. And then Galani comes in after the call ends and is like, we have snow cones downstairs, like shaved ice or something, just to try to like break the ice. So we cut back to Ame, who has been looking for the fox, can't find him. She links to him to see through his eyes and is like, where are you? What are you doing? And the fox is he's like, yeah, I'm out doing something. And Ame's like, well, I have snacks for you. And the fox is like, I'm good. But she's like, what do you mean you're good? You love snacks. What? And essentially sees through the fox's eyes and realizes that the fox is in front of this massive green wall of fire with the walls of Port Talon behind him. And he is seemingly heading out to the shrine of Orima. And he sort of teases Ame and is like, he's like, yep, I'm doing what I'm basically going to make you do what you want to do rather than like holding off. So Ame's like, I hate you, but I love you. And is going to get her stuff together. She rushes over to Suvi's door and we get this great Brolita moment of her like kicking. Remember, she's jacked now. Her like kicking down the door, crushing the door, and seeing no sign of Suvi. And she gathers her things to go. And that is when our episode comes to a close. Episode 9 of The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One, The King of Cups. And
well
again,
done. Oh,
thank you, sir. I was just saying, don't forget, guys, if you're watching just the recap, you can see our full discussion, and we want to know what you thought as well. You can click the link in the episode description below.
Well done, my friend. What an episode, man.
Amazing episode.
Yes.
I did, by the way, realize I wasn't recording the recap until about 5 minutes in. So
no worries, I got it.
Just throwing that out there. I was like,
I got it. So that's why you have the what is it called? We can never think of things. Contingency?
Yeah. Well, every time I cut the recap, I'm always like, oh, I have to like scrub through the first part where we do like, the introductions and the Witcher jokes and stuff. So I was like, this time I'll just click start recording when we actually say it. And then I just didn't. So
it happens.
That's how it goes. But man, what a fun episode. I loved the conversation at the very start that was really intense.
Yes.
And then also throughout the episode, it can be kind of disorienting in general D&D play where everyone's kind of doing their own thing.
Mm.
But it feels like everyone got like a good bit of attention and it didn't feel fractured, I guess.
Yeah.
But overall, a really fun episode. What'd you think?
Yeah. Agreed. So much came to a head, and I mean, I guess it philosophically, I guess we haven't it hasn't reached like a boiling point of actually coming to conflict or making like a split in game yet. But yeah, I love this episode. That conversation at the beginning where everyone was kind of, giving their own perspective was so good. um they're all so talented, so it's just amazing to see them, play off each other like that. um and yeah, like, all in addition to like the great RP, we got some really interesting plot things happening. It is Naram, uh, confirmed, which we pretty much thought, but
Yeah.
that seems like it has massive implications for the world at whole, some of which were explicitly spoken about in terms of like turning the tide of the war. Um, we got Wavebreaker back, and now, Steel's in the picture, and Steel knows about, which I want to talk about all these things like more in depth. So I don't know why I'm like shotgunning through them right now.
We nailed it. We got it all.
See you guys next time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Steel also kind of being now in the know on the secret mission, if I can call it that, about like what Ame, Suvi, and Ursulon are up to. So like a lot of interesting things at play here.
Yeah. Let's maybe start with that convo at the start, because I think the way you described it's really good in terms of a lot of things came to a head. There's been kind of some tension within the party. I saw a Reddit post about this too. Someone was talking about Suvi and kind of defending Suvi for people. I guess there's been, I haven't really followed a lot of social about this because I don't think it's had the same maybe attention that like, or like the medium of using Reddit, like we've seen with other content. But I kind of thought it was obvious that Aabria was playing a character, but apparently there was some chatter about this. But we saw some of this tension kind of come out of Ame finally kind of moving away from being the agreeable, like, yeah, okay, let's just do what the group wants, to like, this is my mission. Like, this is what I'm called to do. I'm called to defend and care for the spirits. And I did not expect Ursulon to be like, I'm done. I'm out of here. I thought he was going to side with her and it was going to be, like we said, one's a pair and one's a spare.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be the two of them and Suvi being like, well, but I loved the whole conversation. It was incredibly tense, and I was glued to it. I mean, I sat in a driveway listening to it before I got out of my car. So really good.
Yeah, it was. And yeah, especially, I mean, it was all good. So by especially, I shouldn't have used the word especially, but in particular, Ursulon's Lou Wilson's take on that was so fascinating. And it's such an interesting way to do it because it's so obvious to just be like, to stand with Ame, but I think that his choice there makes perfect sense. And he spelled it out, but I'll repeat it again here. Just that, he's had a tough life, and this time with his friends these last couple of weeks has been his first joy in a long time. So he doesn't want to risk that, especially in something that he thinks is like a fool's errand. Like they have no chance against this industrial empire.
Right.
So yeah, I really, really liked the whole budding philosophies here. And I'm really interested to see kind of what happens, because everyone kind of took steps in the direction of what they wanted to do already. Like Lou went to go get Wavebreaker. And so in Ursulon's mind, it's like, let's leave. We got what we're coming for. Let's get out of here. Ame has already left to go talk to Orima. So something's going to happen there. And then Suvi has been told to don't do anything, like stay put. So like, I don't know, like what's, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Like what's going to happen next? I mean, are they even going to be able to find out what Ame and the Fox are doing?
I don't know. And it's interesting because I think they also didn't, I know Brennan's really big on like, the dice tells the story. Ways that they could have connected. Like I think Ame tried to like ask for help. Like, is there anyone around I could talk to who've seen Suvi?
Mhm.
And she had like an investigation check or something. She rolled, I think, a nat one. And
Yeah.
Brennan was like, nope. So yeah, I mean, how do these players reconnect? Because right now, um, Ursulon has the note from Suvi. Suvi's spending the night and has told to lay low. And Ame doesn't know where either of them are and is heading out, presumably to the shrine. I mean, unless
Yeah.
she bumps into Ursulon coming back,
Yeah.
which then maybe she bumps into Ursulon because Ursulon is coming back to the Chantry, bumps into him. He has the note. I don't know, but
Can can Suvi message? She can, right? No? Just
no.
Ame? Because Ame can, right? One of them can, I think. Maybe not.
I don't think any of them have message.
Maybe I'm just thinking of her communicating with the fox, and maybe that's where I'm getting my wires
I
crossed.
don't think any of them have sending or message.
Okay.
And I don't even know mechanically if Brennan's intending to have that in this world. I mean, he could be. It could be a full blown 5e, everything in it goes. But also the flavor of him using like the speaking mirrors, and which is a sending
That's true.
stone, obviously. Portal doors, things like that. I'm curious, like what his flavor spin will be. I'm sure there'll be something like that, but I'm curious what his version will be.
Yeah.
But I don't think that anyone has anything like that yet.
I think you're right now that I'm thinking about it. I think I was just thinking about the fox. Um so yeah, I mean they really have no way of getting in touch. I guess I mean I don't think it'll play out this way, but I guess at least it potentially Ame could catch up to the fox and then like not go see Orima yet and like let's go home and talk to the other ones first. But like I really don't see that happening. Like I imagine that they're going at this point.
Mhm.
Um
I feel like they're gonna have to run into each other before she makes it out there, because since Ursulon and Suvi are so like, no, we're not talking to Orima and we're not going to help Naram. I almost feel like they'd have to see Orima themselves to be convinced.
yeah, or
Like,
even potentially if they just maybe not Suvi, but at least Ursulon, if he finds out that Wavebreaker is like Naram's freaking sword, like that connection might be enough for him to kind of waver
yeah,
a bit
which
as well.
by the way was an awesome. I loved that scene. That was such an incredible realization.
Yes.
Um, because I was wondering how Brennan was intending to connect these things together. Like, oh, here's a side quest, Naram, and it's cool how it ties in, and speaks to how awesome Brennan is. You know, it's like, oh, here are these two statues. Like, oh, that could be like a long term quest or something. No, it's the guy who freaking owns the sword you're looking for.
Yeah, which okay, I hadn't thought about this until you were just now saying that, but do you think it's connected on the level of okay, I'm trying to be careful with how I word this because I'm not necessarily implying anything like super specific. But do you think the fact that Naram was captured that had anything to do with the fact that grandmother Rin and this curse and telling them to get Wavebreaker, or that's just kind of a coincidence?
I think that's a coincidence,
Okay.
because I think when Grandmother Rim was talking about like removing the enchantment of the curse, she was going through the Rolodex of like, okay, upstairs in my attic, there's this thing that can help you. Or I guess it was the rooster, Tomo. Tomo? What was the rooster's
Oh,
name?
what was his name? Oh no.
Regardless,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
rooster was one explaining it. So, yeah, I think that's just a coincidence.
Okay. I would lean that way too, but I could see it being connected. And again, I don't mean like ultra specifically, like the
Sure.
curse is because Naram was captured, but there's some underlying thread going on with grandmother Rin and with something in the
Mhm.
world at whole that seems to be happening that's potentially tied into what Suvi's parents were involved in as well.
Mhm.
Um, so again, not that A caused B in terms of Naram and grandmother Rin, but Naram being captured could be one peg in this greater conspiracy that grandmother Rin was worried about or was fighting against, and was thus cursed to forget or whatever, whatever's going on there. that could
Right.
be these things could all be connected in some way, like by some maybe
Hmm.
greater puppeteer that's pulling strings. Um, all that being said, I do think it's perfectly fine if it is just a nice little coincidence that those two things are connected. But yeah, really cool. And I have it written in my notes. Let me just try to pull it up real quickly about those three items, because in the recap I named them, but I didn't kind of explain what they do.
Hmm.
The spear, Sea Calmer, uh, that the waves may be at your beck and call. So I'm assuming control the currents, kind of like they're messing with now.
Hmm.
A cloak named Mistcaller, that the fog of the sea might hide your travel from your foes. So I'm guessing some sort of invisibility, perhaps. And then the sword named Wavebreaker, that he may strike down the spells and curses of his enemies,
Hmm.
which we know to be the reason they want to use it.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean,
The question
yeah,
being,
go ahead.
why doesn't he have these artifacts anymore?
That's a good that's a good point,
Because
because
Miss Collar presumably would have kept him from getting captured or tracked. And then Sea Collar, if he does have it, maybe the Chantry has it now, the Scepter's Chorus.
mm,
Um, since they seem bent, they seem aware of his power of controlling the tides or the currents.
yeah, true. Um, yeah. So because all right, the folklore refers to the King of Storms giving three gifts to his son Naram. So I'm
Hmm.
guessing the King of Storms is like an even upper
Hmm.
echelon spirit. Um, so if that's true, like it might maybe it's just kind of like mythological legend, not necessarily like hard canon of the world that those three items were given to him. Um, and what I mean by that is like maybe Naram wasn't necessarily running around with those three artifacts, but maybe even Naram like gifted those to like his followers or something. I don't know. Um, but yeah, that is a good question of how did it end up in Grandmother Rin's hands. Maybe it was even freely given to her, as she seems to be a ally to the spirits,
Hmm.
the honored ones. Um,
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That does make
like
sense.
so maybe not that like Naram literally like walked up to her doorstep and gave it to her, but like it eventually arrived to her because of like the amicable relationship between her and spirits. But she did just have it in an attic, so maybe it was just something she picked up along the way. Uh,
I don't know. It could have been a gift, and you know how we deal with gifts sometimes. The person's like,
yeah,
"Hey, do you still have my?" You're like, "Yeah,
yeah. And then you bring it out the next time they come over, like
yeah."
conspicuously use it.
It's like I knew you had that. Like, oh yeah.
I love this ice cream maker.
I remember someone gave me a gift in like high school or something, and then my car was really dirty. I had a lot of stuff in my car, and they like were sitting in my back seat while I was driving somewhere, and it was at their feet on the ground. And it had been like months, and they were like, I think it was like a book, and they were like, "Oh, the book I bought you." I was like,
Like,
"Yeah,
yeah, I sit back there and read it all the time.
yeah."
You like describe something that was me, and I'm like, wait, the book I gave you. Um, but yeah, I wonder like the. I mean, I guess we don't know how prevalent these like. I don't know if it's even fair to call it an artifact, but like
Mm,
it's written about in a folklore book, so like it seemingly has some sort of prestige, let's call it.
right,
Um, and yet somebody like Will Gallows couldn't make anything of it. And
right,
and like he seemingly
right,
would have put some effort into figuring out what this was.
right.
Um, I mean,
That is
maybe that's
interesting.
not fair to assume, but I assume he did. Um, and couldn't find anything out about it or get it
Yeah,
to work. So
it's interesting that he couldn't find a buyer for it.
yeah. So and I mean maybe its capabilities are only I'm assuming they can only be utilized by like certain people, not just an average Joe could go decurse something with it. But that ability, even though we haven't seen it in action, seems very very powerful,
Especially for a level 1.
right? So,
Yeah,
uh, so again, I don't know if I'm like reading too much into it, but it's fascinating to me that
yeah,
Gallows thought it was worthless, essentially.
yeah. Yeah.
especially since he's from Port Talon, where Naram seems to be like a known
Yeah.
entity, and it had 7 fingers. You know, you think like somebody would have been able to put it together if he went to get it like appraised or something. Um,
I think
but
maybe it
yeah.
speaks to just how little people know about the spirit world. Like they know enough to be dangerous, I guess. Like spirits that can be
Mm,
monetized, for lack of a better phrase, or taken advantage of. But beyond that,
yeah. You know, I like that a lot. I think that kind of is says a lot about the world in like in general, because the forces that we're at least aware of are like
mhm,
normal folk,
mhm,
witches who are very in tune with the spirits, and like their whole existence is to like foster that
mhm,
relationship. And then the Citadel, who really doesn't care at all, they just see them as dollar signs
right,
and power. Um,
right,
so yeah, I really like that. Maybe only witches and only like, you know, just
yeah,
devout people are even in the
yeah.
know
And
on this stuff.
maybe we assume it's more common knowledge just because we're seeing the story through the point of view of Ame, who, like she mentioned, that's her charge,
Right.
to take care of the spirits.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that kind of sheds light on Moro not even
Yeah.
recognizing
Who,
that and reading that
by
other
the way, I
time.
love the question about, have you thought about any, like, have there been any negatives? And he was just like,
Consequences to my actions? No.
no. There is that kudzu, but probably
Nah,
not that.
not related. Yeah, totally. He seems just, I guess oblivious is the right word, just hyper
Yeah.
focused on, you know,
Hang on.
himself.
My toddler's, give me 2 seconds. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, you're
Talk to
good.
the camera for a
All right, I got this. My whole life's been building to this moment. Um, I am going to take this chance to look through my notes real quick to find something I wanted to talk to Blake about, but I couldn't remember the specifics of. Um, Apologies. Okay, yeah. I was trying to find the exact wording here. The King of Storms, that is what it was said, gave 3 gifts to his son Naram on his name day. I'm probably going to have to say this again because I want Blake's take on it. Okay, I was check
Sorry.
I heard that one. Is it still okay?
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be fine.
Okay. I was I was looking in my notes while you were gone to double check the Naram and his dad thing. And it does say the King of Storms, which I didn't know if that was right or not, but that's at least what I have written down. And he gave him the gifts on his name day. And so that just made me wonder like how this works. We don't really know that, like, I mean, presumably there must be some like original spirit or original set of spirits
Right.
that,
Like a hierarchy or something. Or not
yeah,
even hierarchy, but like, I see where you're going with this.
is some sort of like pantheon, I guess. And I'm just
Yeah.
curious,
Right.
like, is Naram seems like big deal, but maybe he's not that big a deal. But like on his name day, like I wonder how new spirits are created. I mean,
Hmm.
Ursulon has a mom and dad, so seemingly we know how he was created, but he seems like bottom of the totem pole as far as like spirits go. So I'm curious if that's just true for all spirits, like they're all just, you know, made the old fashioned way, or if like, and this is probably getting into like territory that we may never even encroach in the game, or if we do, it'll be like years down the line when they're getting, you know, like metaphysical and philosophical
Mm.
with it. But like I wonder if spirits are at all based on like belief, you know, or like,
Mm.
I don't know. uh, I was looking for something kind of esoteric to talk about while you were gone, and I had these thoughts while I was listening to the episode. So
But it is interesting when you talk about a pantheon, and you think about like the cosmetology, for lack of a, is that the right word?
I think that's like
Cosmetology?
makeup,
That's,
right?
sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I butchered that so bad. Cosmology,
There we
the
go.
cosmology of the spirit world. um, what's interesting that I was just thinking about when you said that you have the King of Storms, who, if that is the father of Naram, which seems to be the case, well, we know it is. I think about, okay, what's that person's domain as the King of
Right.
Storms? We also have the King of Night. Are these
Is that it
peers?
though, or did I? Because I think that's what I said, but I don't know if that's right.
I think maybe not actually. Maybe King Under the Stars. Now that I
He was
said
like
that,
Pilgrim Under the Stars. I think that was one of them.
Pilgrim Under the Stars, King of Night. I think. Let me figure this out.
I think I might have it in my notes. Let me search for King of Night or King.
Yeah, let me see here. Because I have the. Let's see. What episode was that? Episode 2?
It was one of the first ones.
Let's see here.
Sorry if y'all are hearing that music.
All right, here's the transcript. All right. King. Oh, maybe it was episode 3, actually. Okay, I think it's episode 3.
Okay.
So let's see here. Episode 3, the charter. Oh, actually, the transcript button doesn't work anymore. Oh no.
Oh no. I found Pilgrim in the Stars in my notes, and I thought I wrote down all the names, but it's by itself, so that doesn't really help us.
It's such a bummer that the link's broken now for the transcript.
I'm sure they'll get it fixed.
Let's see if someone's like curating like a wiki or something. Okay. Here's somebody's page.
What were we?
Well, I was just, yeah, I mean, I was just saying I thought it'd be really interesting if, you know, if there was some kind of, like, building on the concept of pantheon, if there's deities with their spirits with their domains, and if the King of the Night, which I may be forcing, was on a level similar to the King of Storms, but anyway, I guess I can't seem to find anything. It's too bad that the transcript's not working, like I said.
Yeah. Well, I guess in any case, I'm curious about how this works too. And now that we're talking about this, have we actually had? You find
Sorry, find it.
Yeah.
His 3 names are the Man in Black, Pilgrim Under the Stars, King of Night.
We got there, y'all.
Yeah. Took a while.
Everyone cheer.
Thank you to this. I don't know who this is. This person has this website where they're it's like their own wiki that they're doing, looks like.
Oh, nice.
Which is kind of cool.
Because it might be the one somebody told me about. Because I remember in one of the first episodes of this, you and I were talking about maybe like getting like a lore Bible going for this show.
Yeah, right.
And then somebody in the Discord told me somebody was already doing that. So it might be the one you're looking at right now.
Yeah, could be. Okay, so the King of Night and the King of Storms. Could there be a connection there? I don't know.
Like how does this? I'm just going to keep using the word pantheon, or how does this power structure work? And what I was saying a second ago was, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm probably wrong and I just don't remember, but has there been a mention of a single deity ever in this show?
Deity, how do you mean?
Like in the same sense that like in 5e, there's like deities and like an actual pantheon, you know?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either, which is really interesting for this world. And because of that, maybe these great spirits are kind of those for the purposes of.
Additionally, are there clerics in this world?
I mean, we haven't seen one yet.
So you make a great point there.
But yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Like if we did see and I don't think they're going to use the word. Well, no, they have used the word paladin, haven't they? Because wasn't the
Ursulon's
guy?
a paladin.
Yeah.
Oh, but they did have the actual. Well, I think they used knight for the guy.
Okay, yeah, maybe
But
they did.
Ursulon is a paladin class.
Right.
Um,
So like, I mean,
he's also level 1 though.
right. So mechanically, at least, barring some potential homebrews that may happen, we have the paladin class. We'll probably have at least aspects of the cleric class in some form or fashion. And those don't necessarily have to have an answer. Like, who cares? It can be
Right.
whatever you want it to be. But especially knowing someone like Brennan who's going to and has put a lot of thought into this, I wonder maybe there is like a normal pantheon of deities, but maybe there's not. And in this world, the honored ones, or like at least the very great ones, are kind of that slot or something. I don't really know where I was going with this. It's very
No, it's we're just hashing out thoughts together.
Yeah.
We're just trying to like, okay, what is this exactly? I'm just clicking through my tabs now of Worlds Beyond stuff. Yeah, I don't know, but they're presumably going to meet a spirit in person when they go to Orima's shrine as well.
True. I
Maybe
guess
in person. I mean,
we know some spirits like travel freely between, and she does seem to be powerful, so I'm assuming she can. But
we've also
if
talked about. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if she can, then why hasn't she done more?
Right.
Because the kudzu thing is happening, which seemingly is an effect of her, but yet Ame thinks that, like, I guess we don't know if Ame thinks this, but at least presumably she thinks she needs to go tell Orima what happened to Naram. But seemingly she knows, and thus the kudzu.
I think the other part of it too is she wants to kind of ask Orima if she can help, while also asking for, hey, can you leave Port Talon in one piece?
Yeah.
Because I think that was the other piece of it too, is like not wanting her fury to be unleashed. So.
Yeah, and maybe, I think we talked about this a little bit, but maybe even the fact that the shrine hasn't been kept up.
Tended to.
Yeah, like, maybe for whatever reason that has like prevented Orima from making a more
it gives
powerful
me vibes
response
of Yunalesca in Final Fantasy X. Wasn't her job to like go keep to the shrines of like the spirits or something?
Is Yunalesca? Is that like her full name?
I think so.
Or is that another character? Okay, I was just trying to make sure I was.
No, I don't know. I thought Yunalesca, then I was like, oh yeah, I guess it is just Yuna.
Well,
maybe it's just Yuna. Maybe Yunalesca something different.
Maybe that's her full name though. But I just was making sure we were talking about the same person.
Yeah. Yuna, her job, and I think in the game to like get 100%, you would also go to these shrines too.
I vaguely remember something like that. Yeah,
it was like the Aeons or something.
Yeah, spoilers
like
for
the
20-year-old game, but
there's no spoilers there. I mean,
I was about to say I'm saying something else now.
Okay.
So spoilers for Final Fantasy X, but man, it was so hard emotionally to have to like kill all of your spirits at the end to stop the cycle.
Right.
That always stuck with me.
Well, and Titus not being there anymore. I mean,
just the summons.
they're remaking that game, by the way.
Oh yeah, I heard that. Which I've been wanting to like replay it for, like, I've had that itch to replay it for a number of years, but I guess I might as well wait for the remake at this point.
Well, not to get too off base, but did you play Final Fantasy VII's Part 1 remake?
No, because I was waiting for the PC port, which is now out, but like it's still like $70. It's like, it's been out for years. Like, discount this, please. So maybe I'll wait until like it's all out.
Yeah, the Part 1 remake was really good. So
I heard it was really good, man.
I have high expectations for Final Fantasy X, and also I hear that Final Fantasy 16, the latest, is going to be a really great Game of the Year contender.
Ooh, well, it's out.
So it is, yeah. But people have been giving feedback, have been like, this is definitely going to be Game of the Year. So we'll see.
Yeah, I need a PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to the subject. One last thing in like the power structure, because I just had this thought, is we're talking about Naram, who seems pretty powerful, but we at least know his dad's above him. So in terms of figuring out where Naram is, I was thinking about Ursulon's dad. Because Ursulon's dad seems like a pretty big deal.
Right.
But we know Ursulon's dad was like scared of Orima, basically. So it seems like
Right.
Orima's above Ursulon's dad.
Right.
And not that this is necessarily a fair assumption, but if Orima and Naram were like a thing, then he's probably close to her power.
Maybe unless it's like an ant, you know.
Like a what show recently did something? Oh, duh, Lou Wilson again.
Yeah, Ravening War.
I was trying to place that. I was like, what was that?
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. Presumably peers in some way, and then yeah.
So then presumably Naram is like a really big deal, which means his dad might be like one of the top.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So yeah, I know we've like talked about this for an hour, but so we can move on. But I just had that thought when I thought about how Ursulon's dad reacted to Orima. Okay.
Yeah.
So to kind of get us a little bit back on a track here, the fox is the greatest, man. We could probably say this like every episode. But I called attention to the line that I loved during the recap about like, you know, if you just assume they're always going to catch you and you don't do anything, well, like you've already lost, you know, like, loved that. And I love the, like, I mean, he's always been a lovable guy, but he definitely had that like kind of selfishness to him. But this move he pulled at the end was like completely selfless.
Yeah.
He went, you know?
Yeah, he's fulfilling his oath to Ame.
Yeah.
You know, as her spirit animal, I guess.
You know, he turned down treats.
True.
Just if anything happens to him.
Right. Oh yeah. And Lou asked, I think he said he's got 40 hit points, right? And he's like, still 2. He's like, can we change that?
Got to pump those numbers up.
And he's like, nope. So
love the fox. And I wonder I just wonder what's presumably Ame and the fox are going to speak to Orima. So maybe they meet Ursulon first, like you mentioned. But presumably that happens. And one way or the other, it seems like Ame is probably going to re-enter this scenario with a plan via Orima. Not necessarily that Orima tells her, like, do this, this, and this, but like she's going to have some sort of actionable goal after meeting with Orima. All right, so now to move away from that.
Hang on.
Oh, go ahead.
Let's move quite away just yet. I went back and grabbed the vision that Ame had. Just because I was curious more about this dynamic. I thought it was a callback to the past, something that happened. And I remember what we talked about when this happened, but now reading it, I wonder if it's a vision of the future of what could potentially happen, bearing in mind that she was able, in the first episode, the young couple that come to see her and they want to know if they're ever going to have a kid, and she's able to see like their entire futures.
Right.
So what this says, as you hit the stone, your mind reels with screams and horror and the smell of burning salt. Witch fires that are burning. You see endless vines looking to choke, strangle, and ruin. You hear screams. You hear people up on the watchtower and walls of stone summon forth from the earth. And you see a lance thundering down from the sky, beating with a rhythm of pain and intensity and torture. As you see the face of the statue, blood streaming from the eyes and mouth, you hear endless waves and deep song from the bottom of the ocean, cut short, and a scream choked with ash, fire, and smoke. What if this is Naram's dad and Orima both coming to destroy Port Talon, either to free him or revenge for their experiments going too far and like killing Naram?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's definitely a vision of the future now, because I remember when we first talked about this, a point of confusion for me was that the wall was in the vision, and yet we had learned the wall was only recently like put up. And so I was like, did this happen in the past? Like,
Yeah.
But so that makes perfect sense to me and especially with your example from the couple at the beginning of the show, I think that's totally what it is. And yeah, I think maybe was the line about like lightning striking down.
Yeah. Yeah. You see a lance thundering down from the sky,
So
which
that
very
sounds like,
Zeus-esque.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
King of
sounds like
Storms,
his
right?
dad. Um, so it makes sense to me. I mean, maybe, yeah, interesting.
It's your
Which,
classic Moro meddling in things he doesn't understand and potentially dooming the entire town.
yeah, I wonder if like, do you think like his dad just doesn't know? I guess this ties back to like the whole
Mhm.
pantheon conversation. Is not they're not necessarily omniscient, so like maybe his dad doesn't know this is going on. Um, but it at least seems like Orima does. But yeah, I wonder what changes from what's the status quo right now to where that happens. Like, is there something
Mhm.
blocking them
Yeah,
from
I don't know.
assisting?
Yeah.
Because Moro is so oblivious that he wasn't even thinking about consequences. So it's not like he has something in place to prevent them coming at him, you know? So I wonder like
Mhm.
what is preventing that. Um unless they just don't know, but then I don't know how to explain the kudzu.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll get an explanation maybe this next episode or the one after as to why she seems to be like delayed in arriving or just the extent of her power just being the kudzu.
Yeah, I love that though. That makes so much sense with the vision.
Yeah.
Which also calling back to that first episode, something I wondered because when you do get a glimpse of the future, just you get a lot of questions. Like, was that inevitable, or did that guy, especially since she gave him, the ring,
Mhm.
like, is it possible that he maybe wouldn't cheat on his wife? So is it possible
Oh,
that we
yeah.
can we
Yeah.
avoid this future that she saw with the spirits attacking the city, or
Well,
is it inevitable?
I think the implication is that if Naram continues to be manipulated in this way, he will eventually die, and that will seal the fate of the city. Because it says
Mm,
you see the face of the statue, which was Naram, blood streaming from eyes and mouth, so injured. Which,
mhm.
by the way, he's already bleeding from what we've seen. But
Right.
you hear endless waves in deep song from the bottom of the ocean, cut short.
Mm,
Which to me, I think a life that's cut short.
right, right.
So I think Ami's going to realize this, may put two and two together, and maybe if the party isn't there to get convinced by Orima, it'll be like, hey, this is what's going to happen to everybody if we don't stop what they're
Yeah.
doing to Naram.
And that actually answers my other question of like, why hasn't this happened yet? Maybe it's because like whatever the case, but if he dies, then like, okay,
Right.
now it's over for
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so yeah. Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
It's a
interesting.
little Pixelist prediction. I'll put it up there.
Boom. Put it on the scoreboard.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a little distracted as you're talking about the foxes. I was just like, I know there was something about this vision, but
Oh,
anyway,
that's great ad.
crazy
Great
stuff
insight.
though.
Okay. Um let me scroll back through the notes here because there's other things I wanted to talk about, and I know we've been like stun
Yeah.
locked on this one subject.
Right. I just thought it was cool the Will Gallows job offer, but especially the thread that was
Yeah.
given,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
One, just what a cool and ballsy move for Ursulon
Yeah.
to go alone. Like, because there's no guarantee, especially the fact that he came alone. What if Will Gallows was like, I'm going to kill you and keep the sword now?
Yeah.
Like, um, Brennan actually in the fireside chat, they talked briefly about that. And I think, not Ame and Suvi, Aabria and Erika were like so nervous in that moment. And, Brennan just dropping knowledge like he always does. He made the comment of like, well, one, like truthfully, Gallows would be impressed. It's not every day that like you get somebody that comes in town and handles what you ask them to handle in less than a day. Like that's a
Right.
valuable asset. So Gallows would like make the job offer like he did. Um, But in addition to that, sorry, I'm just trying to pull it up so I don't misquote it here. But Brennan says, my biggest piece of advice is if you smack your players on the wrist every time they take a risk, they'll stop taking risks, and then you'll wonder why your story's not moving forward. So I was like, yeah, it's a great point. So I'd
That's
love
a great insight. Wow. I'm thinking about that for my own campaign.
yeah, so
That's really good.
I love the fact that Lou took that risk and that Brennan, I don't know if rewarded is the right word, but like Brennan went with the flow and and also made like a really, I don't want to say the word believable because I'm not trying to imply that it all wasn't, but that's like a really like it makes sense the reaction that happened.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, the thread, a literal plot thread, if you will. I'm wondering like do you think it actually is from the noose, or that was just like he's trying to sound hard, like
I think it probably is from it.
it's just what's going on there? Like
Yeah.
Clearly
there'll
it's
be
like
more, there'll
part
be
of
more
his
to tell.
mystique. Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be more to tell with that story for sure.
So I'm really curious to see like and remind me if you remember, but like what did he say when he gave it to, was it like show this if you need to find me, or was it like do we think it's magical in some way? Like
I don't think he talked about the mechanics of it, but he just basically said like be careful not to lose it because I only have a certain amount on me.
So I wonder, like, it seems more than just like a token to get you back in front of me because they already had that basically, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, I don't think it's that. I think it's something beyond that. So it like, be it a magical item, be it a way for him to like communicate long distance or something. I don't know, but I'm really curious as to what this string does. I'm assuming it's more than symbolic.
Yeah.
But yeah, loved that. We already talked about Lou's choices this episode, and they were amazing. So just because I want to get to Suvi as well. Anything else on?
No, that's where I was about to say I wanted to chat about.
Yeah. So we already kind of briefly mentioned it, but she has her directive to lay low, don't do anything, and both of her friends are out there, starting fires.
About that.
I'm curious to see what she does, how she reacts here. We already know they have like the battle of I keep using the word philosophy. I don't know if that's necessarily apt, but they're already having this battle of philosophy, and now it's like it's going to reach an actionable point. So like
yeah,
I don't think the like culminating moment of like Suvi versus like the ideals of the Citadel versus the ideals of her friends, I don't think that's coming to a head yet, but like something's got to give in the next couple encounters that they're going to have, because
I mean it's sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, that was it.
I was gonna say it's like kind of a double whammy because not only do you have to now, she's been told to do nothing, you have to convince her to do something, but more importantly, do something against the plan that she was actually pleased by, and excited by. So
referring to the Naram capture?
Yeah, right. Where she said like at some point I went from feigning excitement to actually excited.
Well, do you think that I think that Steele probably would be excited about that as well when she finds out more, because she really only got like the snippet,
Yeah.
So
I mean, we're not really sure what she would think because Steele seemed.
That's true.
She was like, what's he doing to his spirit? And was kind of like, lock it down, hold everything on, like hold everything down for now. But I think it could go either way. I mean, she is the sword of the Citadel or the sword of the tower, whatever the expression was.
Yeah, sword of the Citadel.
Yeah. So, I mean, she probably sees stuff like this a lot. So she probably would see like the military advantage of it and be excited by it. But it's still 2 days till she gets there. I mean, also the detail, by the way, of the portal door in Silbury being
unavailable. I wanted to bring that up as well. That's suspicious.
Yeah.
Like, why doesn't it work?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know the mechanics of the portal doors, but like everything we've heard thus far didn't make it seem like you use it once and then it's cooled down for a month.
Yeah.
So yeah, why do the portal doors not work? And I'm wondering if we had this conversation at one point in our past episodes that what if Steele's kind of sus. Not that she's like the big bad, but like
Mm.
she's connected in a lot of places that would really serve her up on a silver platter to like have a betrayal that we find out about. Like maybe she's the one that got Suvi's parents killed, or whatever the
Right.
case may be.
Right.
So it's kind of, I was like, ugh, when Suvi told her the truth about Ame and Ursula, and I was like, oh, now she knows. Because like, if that's true that Steele, and again, I'm not saying Steele's like evil, but if she had any part to play in that grand conspiracy, which is probably connected to Grandmother Rin, which we just don't know how yet, then she could feasibly be connected to the curse that's on Rin and
Right.
Ame, and now she knows like, oh, they're looking for a way to lift this.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. If she placed the curse, even now, it's well, I can't let them get Naram's sword
right.
at all.
So
Then,
stay put, don't move. Like,
yeah.
like again, I'm not like fully in on this idea that she is like a bad guy at all, but like all those pieces do line up if that were to be the case, and like that could be the reason why she told them to not move. Like,
Right.
but all this being said, I don't think that's about to come up in these next episodes. I think even if that were the case, like I feel like that's not something that gets dropped until like episode 50, you know? Um,
Maybe I don't know. I
yeah.
agree with you. I think it's definitely like a longer con, but I think Brennan is a bit of like a chaos demon with like crazy moments, and I'm very curious if he is himself like cycling up to some big episode.
Yeah.
So
Which on the Steel thing, which this will be my last thing about it, so we can move on. But the whole ideological war we've got going on, if you will, between like the Citadel and the Honored Friends, kind of like the dynamic between Suvi and Ame, if you will. If we assume that the Citadel is going to do anything for the good of the Citadel, the power of the mages, then they're going to scorched earth what, like they don't care, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's just do it, ends justify the means. We don't know what the deal was with Suvi's parents and what that conflict was about, but presumably I feel like Suvi's parents were kind of at odds with maybe the Citadel or maybe the established powers, and that's a total assumption on my part. But they wanted to protect Suvi, and they entrusted her to a witch instead
mm-hmm.
of the
Mm-hmm.
Citadel. So I imagine there was some dynamic there that was maybe opposed. And so Steel, being their best friends, you would think would be on that side of things, but she's now the sword of the Citadel, like
Right.
the number one muscle for the Citadel. So you would imagine that like her goals are in line with the Citadel's goals.
Mm-hmm.
All that to say is that I think in this ideological war, Steel is definitely on one side, and I think ultimately Suvi is going to be on that other side. So
I agree. Yeah.
and maybe that's the same thing that happened with her parents and Steel.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I agree 100%. So
we'll see.
whew, man. All right, what else in this episode?
Let me just go through real quick. I think we pretty much covered what I wanted to.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, just one other quick Brennan. Well, two quick points of praise. Shout out Taylor Moore again, because the sound design was so good this episode.
It was, yeah.
The moments that stand out to me was Ame in that research montage where she finds out about Naram and like the theme kicks
epic.
in. Yeah.
Very good. Yes.
It was so good. And then also in the big conversation that we referred to in the beginning of the episode, kind of the absence of music, kind of just like letting.
Yes.
Which I think that's a skill too, to kind of know when to not touch it.
Right.
But the praise I wanted to give to
it's like, this is the wrong feel.
The like sad violin.
Yeah.
But also Brennan, kind of in the same vein, Brennan didn't talk for like, I don't know, like I want to say like 20 minutes. It probably wasn't that long, but like, it was all the players, which I I think he even mentioned something about this. That's like the best feeling as a DM, when you just don't even have to do anything and your players are just like going back and forth. Um, so, I mean, of course, a DM of Brennan's caliber wasn't going to like jump in and like force anything in that moment, but I still wanted to, give him the praise for kind of just sitting back and letting them flex
Oh
their
yeah,
chops.
love it. Yep, I agree. Well, I guess let us know what other high points you guys loved if you're enjoying the series, and your theories is what the heck's going to be happening in the near future. We want to know about it. And also, don't forget, we have a Discord. You can jump in and chat with us. We don't do like a live reaction to Worlds Beyond because of the nature of how it gets released, but we do have a Discord where you can jump in and like have a conversation and let us know what you're thinking about it, like an actual like chat channel.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So don't be a stranger. Everybody's welcome, and we'll keep bringing you Worlds Beyond content as well as some D&D content as well.
Yeah.
As well.
As well.
Yeah. Thumbnail reaction.
Yeah.
I was looking for like any thread on my desk, and I don't have any. It'd be weird if I did.
I don't. Don't either.
I have my sword, my initiative sword.
Oh, there you go. It's
You can't really
Wavebreaker.
see it. Yeah, it could be like.
All right, I'm in.
Okay.
I'll just.
Am I in the frame? Am I good?
Yeah.
Okay. This was a gift from Will. Tracking initiative.
Have you actually like used it to track initiative? Nice.
Yeah. And now when I bring it out, they're like, "You got the initiative tracker." And I'm like,
"What does that mean?"
I do indeed.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. All right. We appreciate you guys, and we will catch you later.
Bye, y'all.
See ya.